Hi everyone, Brenna Baucum with Collective Wealth Planning. If you are an Oregon PERS member, you've probably heard a lot of noise about pensions over the years. There's headlines, there's politics, there's national stories, and they don't always reflect what's actually happening here in Oregon. Each year, PERS publishes a report called PERS by the Numbers, and the 2025 edition has some important insights that are especially relevant for PERS members and retirees. I attended a webinar a couple of weeks ago where they focused on these numbers, and today I want to walk you through the top takeaways I think that actually matter and translate what they mean in real life. So, there are 7 of them. Let's start with takeaway number 1. The system is underfunded, but improving with a clear plan. As of the end of 2024, they put these numbers together last year. They don't have the final numbers for 2025 yet, so the 2024 is our most recent. Anyway, Oregon PERS is about 73% funded on its own and roughly 77% funded when you include the employer side accounts, which I'll talk about in a minute. That means that the system has an underfunded liability, as do most pension systems in the United States, but it's also important context. Oregon is in better shape than many other states, and the funded status is projected to improve over time. For members, this mostly affects employer contribution rates, not your earned benefits, but that's one reason why PERS remains a point of ongoing policy conversations. Takeaway number 2, projections show full funding around 2036. So under a steady long-term return assumption of 6.9%, the system is projected to reach 100% funded status in 2036. With the unfunded portion, of course, declining steadily along the way. That 6.9% assumption often raises eyebrows, so I think it's worth noting that PERS has delivered returns in that general range over long market cycles, including periods of significant volatility. So this isn't best case scenario, it's a measured, risk-aware assumption. Although I would be remiss if I did not mention projections are not guarantees, but they do reflect active management and long-term discipline. Takeaway number 3, employer side accounts explain why PERS keeps showing up in the news. One of the more kind of under the radar parts of this report are around employer side accounts. So these are pools of money that employers have set aside within PERS to help pay down their share of pension costs. So they're not tied to an individual member or member's benefits, but they do help reduce the employer contribution rates. There are currently over 180 side accounts across more than 140 employers, and many of them are expected to start expiring in 2027. As these accounts phase out, some employers are going to see higher contribution rates, which can create budget pressure and, again, bring PERS back into public and legislative conversations. So that's why we often see it show back up in the headlines and can expect it to. What's important for you to know is that side accounts don't change benefits that already have been earned. They help explain kind of the environment around PERS, but not the security of individual pensions. All right, takeaway number 4, most retirees receive moderate, not extreme, pension benefits. So I think there is often a perception that PERS benefits are unusually large. We hear that in the news from time to time, but the data tells a more grounding story. The median annual benefit is around $28,000. The average annual benefit is roughly $35,000. More than 3/4 of retirees receive less than $4,500 a month, and fewer than 2% receive more than $10,000 per month. So, for most people, the pension is a meaningful foundation, but not the entire retirement income picture, which is why coordination with Social Security, your individual account program or IAP, your deferred comp, your savings, that's why this coordination matters so much. And that's very much related to takeaway number 5. The average replacement ratio is meaningful but not full income. So for recent retirees, the average pension replaces about 45% of final average salary. So that figure does not include those other forms of retirement income, like I just mentioned, Social Security, deferred comp. So your actual retirement income may be higher, but that's useful as a planning anchor. And again, reinforces why timing decisions, healthcare planning, withdrawal strategies remain important even if you have a pension. Takeaway number 6, IAP balances are substantial and payout strategy matters. At the end of 2024, there were over 340,000 IAP accounts, and the average balance was about 42,000. And that math leads us to a total IAP assets of about $14 billion with a B dollars. So most members are invested in age-based target date funds, and retirees receiving installment payments are invested in a separate retirement fund. So as you approach retirement, it's really important to understand how your IAP will be paid. There are lots of choices on your retirement application, what it's invested in, and how that fits in with the rest of your retirement income. And finally, takeaway number 7, work after retirement rules are more flexible than many people think. From right now through 2034, most retirees can work for a PERS participating employer without hour limits, as long as they meet separation from service requirements. So the one caveat to know is that for people retiring before their normal retirement age, that typically means you have to take a 6-month break from PERS covered employment. So this is one of the most common areas that I see confusion around, and where you really don't want to get timing wrong, right? So I'll link to a video here where I go into a bit of detail about the workback rules for Oregon PERS. I will also link to the full Oregon PERS by the numbers report below, but I think if there's one theme that comes across in this report, it's that PERS is a large, complex system, and maybe we all already kind of knew that, but decisions that matter most are really, they're personal and they're specific. So understanding how all your income sources work together, pension, IAP, deferred comp, health care coverage, if you plan to retire before 65 is a big one, and maybe a work back, right? How all those things work together, they can make a real meaningful difference in retirement confidence. So if this raised any questions for you, that's normal, and it's exactly the type of thing that thoughtful planning can help with. Feel free to explore our free resources here under our Oregon PERS playlist, or reach out to us if you want a second set of eyes on your unique picture. Thanks for watching.